Gather round, friends. It's time for Officials Tales. Hosted by three retired sports referees that coaches throughout Northern Ohio knew as the Three Blind Mice. They are authors of the book called Officials Tales. So let's meet the authors and your hosts, Jimmy Borgia, Rick Hall, and Don Nardecchia for today's edition of Officials Tales. Now here's your host, Rick Hall.
Welcome everybody to Officials Tales. And what a special episode we have tonight. We have Andy Freeze back with us for his second year as head coach at Ohio Northern University. And can't wait to talk to him. Before we can get into that, though, we have to bring in the other two stooges. So here we go. Hey, Nardo, what's up?
Hey, Rick, good to be with you. Excited to have Andy on the show tonight.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad he's back for some more punishment. I mean, back to talk to us. Now, speaking of punishment, hey, this guy.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
And where's the mobile studio at tonight?
Look at that.
I'm in the parking lot down at the rec center. Right
Look at
under
the head on
good
that,
spot.
would you?
right
Good
under
spot.
the light there. That's the lit up my studio.
Is that where the vultures are circling now, or?
Yeah. I'm not
Well,
moving fast enough.
Anyway, tonight we have Andy Freeze, local guy who is the head coach at Ohio Northern. Second year, he did a really nice job his first year. I think for a first-year coach, he went 5-5, 500 record. He averaged 375 yards a game offensively, rushing 224, passing 151. And he's averaging 33.7 points a game. That's pretty incredible. And some of the teams that they play in that league are pretty decent. A lot of them you guys would know, Capital, Mount Union, teams like that. So, that's fairly impressive. Don, you had a couple little things to say about Andy before you bring him onto the show. So,
Well, I've known Andy since he was born. He's a native Norwalkian, obviously, and watched him play football, watched him play basketball, and off he went to Otterbein for his college football career. All-American offensive tackle there. Had a great collegiate career. He's been assistant coach up until at numerous places, and just about went into the business world when he decided to give it one more shot and got the job at Ohio Northern. One that it's a very good position, Division III football. So we're all proud of Andy, all us that grew up knowing him, and I'm glad he's going to take some. He's busy as could be this week. Actually, probably this whole 3-week period here, trying to put together a large bunch of young men that are going to play football for him at Ohio Northern.
all right, well, let's bring Andy on. Hi, Andy.
Hey guys, appreciate it. Great to see you. Obviously, excuse the camp voice that we're in right now. Today was practice number 5, so a little raspier than I want to be, but we're powering through, getting through it. So I'm really happy. Just a couple quick notes. The intro looked great. I don't know if I'd seen the intro as the last time, but that was a really great intro. So that was awesome to see. And I know Don was talking about being from Norwalk. One of the things we always tell my guys, you got to be proud of where you come from, and to be able to just do this, sit down, chop it up for a little bit. It's awesome. I love it. I love telling people I'm from Norwalk. I love telling people I'm a trucker. I usually get a side eye from that, but if you know what we're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And it's awesome. I appreciate you guys having me back on, and I promise I'll do my best to stay awake for as long as we need to tonight.
Well, actually, I'm glad you brought Norwalk up. I actually found out today. My grandson plays freshman football for Perkins, and they had to cancel the JV game for Norwalk coming up this season. I found out their numbers are like 32. I think they got out for the total group, and And I think that might be my first question for you, and that's probably my only one. How's it with you? I mean, you having problems filling roster spots, or you getting every body you need?
Yeah, no, we're really fortunate. Our coaching staff, when I accepted this position at Ohio Northern, it was laid out for me pretty clear what the expectation was across campus, as far as administratively. And one of the things I always tell the assistant coaches is, listen, we can have an idea what we want, but we got to work hand in hand with the administration on campus to be able to get to where they want to be too. There's a lot of small schools, some in our area, some in Ohio, Division II level, that have closed the last couple of years from enrollment standpoints. We're fortunate, we're probably about a third on campus. Our student athletes on campus here, we're close to 3,000 students. So you can do the math there. This fall coming in, I think total student athlete wise, we have about 950 student athletes on campus, which is a ton. But out of having almost 3,000 students on campus, that's a good ratio for a smaller school like we are. We're really lucky. We did an awesome job in recruiting. Recruiting for us is going to maintain in Ohio. We start in Ohio, then we'll branch out. Coming to camp, we had around 170 student athletes come to camp. We're still around that 160 area right now. We got kids from Michigan, we got kids from Ohio, we got kids from Georgia, from Florida, and we got one from New York. So we did a really great job to not put ourselves in the position that we didn't feel like we had the proper ammo, especially in our conference, right? Like you mentioned the OAC, it's week in, week out. The best teams in our conference typically have those larger rosters. And if we expect to compete, we got to do that. And I think that's where we suffered a little last year is, you play some of those upper echelon teams and the depth monster gets you a little bit where you can have a great top end guys, but if you don't have guys that can go in, if somebody gets banged up or something along those lines, you're going to be in trouble. So for us, it was really being able to focus in and going to find the best guys that we could. Feel like we did a great job. Like I said, we're somewhere around 80 freshmen or so, and so about we have probably about 10 more upperclassmen, sophomore through seniors, than we do freshmen, and so that's kind of the going rate. Division III football wise, we want to be able to recruit as many guys as we can. And last year was a little different too. My first year here, late in the recruiting process, had to kind of re-recruit those kids that had already been on campus before I got here. So that first year's class was a little smaller than we like. So this year we had to get more to make up for that. And so next year we're hoping to kind of be more in that balanced world of where we feel like program wise we should be. But again, it takes everybody across campus. It takes
Sure,
the athletics department. We work very, very closely with the admissions department, for
sure.
6 months out of the year. That's everybody's question. When I tell them I'm a college football coach, they're like, "Oh, what do you do out of season?" I'm like, "Oh, if you only knew, we spend more time recruiting than we do during the season." And that's very sad when you get me to say that, but that's just the nature of the beast.
Well,
And even in the season, we have game day visits, everything else, but it's, luckily for us, we don't have that issue this year, because again, we did the right job in recruiting and getting players that matched our profile of what we wanted here at Ohio Northern, athletically, and then more importantly for them, academically. Guys found fits academically. We found guys that fit in our wheelhouse that can be successful here. Every school that I've worked at has been completely different. I've worked at the best engineering school in the country. I've worked at some lower academic schools where we could get some more guys that maybe weren't as academically great as what we're getting here at Ohio Northern. So being at a place like this is really a sweet spot, going out to find guys, aid them up scholarship wise, academically, and then also be able to help them out financial aid wise. And it's not going to work for everybody, but that's just part of it too. So again,
oh, yeah.
really long your first answer, but again, it's great to see you guys. Great to be on.
Hey,
Well,
that's great. Yeah, that's what we
we
want to
love
hear.
it. I guess we're going to start off with some of the questions. Jimmy, you got one real quick that you can remember?
Yeah, I just
That's
happened to
okay.
be watching on one of the sports channels and had one of the coaches. I couldn't even tell you if it was for basketball, football, or what sport, but he was really against the fact that the athlete would have the possibility of moving from one school year after year.
Mm.
Your thoughts on that? I mean, sooner get him into your system and then, oh, here's another college. Well, we'll give you $1 million more than they have.
Yeah, and So unfortunately, at that upper level, it's kind of become free agency a little bit, right? The transfer portal, all of those
Absolutely.
things. It does trickle down to us. We've had guys we've had discussions with and doing those things. I sometimes I feel like I might have a different take than other people on that. And if a kid's not happy here, we have to wish him well and say, hey, go work out what's best for you.
Sure.
And that's the nice thing about my level is I don't deal with that like from a money perspective, right? Now, obviously, if a kid says school's too expensive, I need to look for different options. I need to try to get a scholarship. You sit down, you have those conversations, and again, I'm going to handle it differently than some people because I'm going to just try to maintain and say, well, how can I help? And if I can help a kid, then I will. Sometimes I don't want to, but I feel like that's my job at this level. And we're going to be supportive of him and work through it with him. But I'm also going to tell him, I don't think my wife would be very happy if I was decided to date someone else either, right? So you got to be committed to where you're at. But ultimately, it's their decision. We cannot like it. That's the nature of what it is. And sometimes, again, I try to control what I can control. I can't control all of it. So I say I have the conversation that I need to have, say what I need to say, whatever's in our student athletes' best interest, we're going to do, we're going to take care of, but ultimately their decision. And we hope we don't lose too many guys. Last year, we didn't lose anybody to the transfer portal. We had a couple guys that wanted to see what options were out there. They were pretty clear to me that they weren't going to go to another Division III school. They wanted an opportunity to see if they could transfer up. And, we tell them, hey, we'll help you. We'll make phone calls and we'll field phone calls. Sometimes you're not going to like what the other coaches have to say. And fortunately for us, those guys are back with us this fall. I think part of it is the culture you build too. Culture is always that
Sure.
clicky key word that everybody says too, right? But if you build it,
Absolutely.
if you build a culture that people want to be around, I don't think you're going to experience that much. But it's bound to happen. Like I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, we're so good that doesn't happen. It's bound to happen.
Sure.
But ultimately, you build that culture. You have guys believing in what we're doing here. I was a D3 football player. If I played in 2017, I'm probably maybe a division higher, just how recruiting changed during that process with everything. But people always laugh because I tell them I was a very average high school football player. I was honorable mention offensive defensive line in Norwalk. That's when Norwalk was a little bit bigger. The NOL was still the NOL, so we had really great competition. I found a home and I was where I was supposed to be. And, I never once thought like I could do this. And, I appreciate Don saying the accolades that I received. And that was already almost 18 years ago. So, time doesn't slow down for anybody,
No.
but it's just a part of the process. You educate the kid, you talk to the kid, you say, hey, how can I help? And you roll with it from there. Cause again, I can't control it. The NCAA does all of that stuff. And again, at the higher levels, it's a hell of a lot different than what it is for us. So
Oh
I
yeah.
can't imagine what they go through on a daily basis either. But I, there's certain parts. Do I not like them? Yeah, I don't like the kids. When I was in school, for example, if I would have transferred out of conference, excuse me, if I would have transferred out of conference, I would have been eligible. If I would have transferred within the OAC, I would have had to sit a year. I
Right.
get that year back, but you have to sit a year. This year, if a guy leaves Ohio Northern and goes to another OAC school, they can play right away. Um,
Yeah.
I don't love it. That's part of it. But if a kid needs to find a home because he's not comfortable where he's at, we have to be receptive of that as well too. Because at the Division III level, it's about the student athlete experience.
Yeah. I think that's the greatest attribute is about the experience and culture. I'm glad you mentioned culture because last week, or it was two weeks ago, last week, we had John Livengood on,
Oh,
and he talked a lot about culture and how it breeds, success in his programs. And I think that's across the board, Andy. I think that's, high school, college, and pro. I mean, you
yeah,
can tell the professional teams that have a great culture.
yeah,
They're always winning. They always have a guy to step up. So
yeah.
uh, Don, I think it's your turn. You got something here to ask Andy?
Yeah, I got a couple here, Andy. As far as the transition that you made, we all heard last year how it was a whirlwind around you. Just trying to put a crew together or a staff together, talking to kids that had played in the past. Will they play again? The whole thing. Uh, Besides working with your student athletes, etc., did you also find that there was a commitment of time to certain aspects of the community there such as some of the public service groups, or people want you to come and speak, or do you go out and talk to people about being a corporate sponsor for the football team or in the athletic department? Are those any of your duties?
Yeah, so before I answer your question, it's funny you mentioned Coach Livengood, right? Don't know if you guys knew this or not. He's an ONU alum.
Yeah, he told
So,
us.
Yeah,
yeah, so
yeah.
he's an Ohio Northern alum, so kind of a great connection there. And even the fact that you said Andy Freeze and John Livengood in the same sentence, I'm not on that level yet. So I appreciate you being able to do that with Coach Livengood's success at St. Paul, and
Mhm.
obviously, hopefully we can get Coach over to a game or something at some point this fall. It'd be
That'd
great
be
to get him
great.
back if he's
I
watching.
certainly hope so. Yeah.
Oh, he
But
watches.
to answer your question with everything, it's kind of as assigned by the athletic director, I guess I would say. Fortunately for us, we're in a position where, budgetarily, we're usually in a good spot. We can fundraise for our budget and do some of those things, which we have a great alumni club called the Polar Bear Club. They can make donations and do some of those things. So from a corporate sponsor situation, I don't have to do too much of that. Our athletic director deals with that, which is nice with everything. And so what we really want to make sure is that we're just focused on the task at hand. And I work on a subcommittee with everybody. There are some folks in town here. This Saturday, actually, good plug for that. We have the Wilson Made in Football Festival. So every NFL football you see is made about a 10-minute walk from my office here in Ada.
Mhm.
And so that's really great. And so we kind of celebrate Wilson being here. I'm on a committee that just kind of help out with that. They used to do a pump, pass, and kick deal with that. They didn't do that this year. And so that's really kind of my most that I've given back to the community. Obviously, always open into helping out. But our guys on Saturday, we have our inter squad scrimmage scheduled for Saturday. Our guys on Saturday will go over. They'll be in the dunk tank. So the local residents coming over, they'll do those things. We have a group of guys that goes to read, I think, once a month at the elementary school. There's a great foundation called the Second and Seven Foundation, which a couple former Ohio State Buckeyes started. Coach Fickle's a big part of it, and one of the guys he played for, I can't think what his name is off the top of my head. But they go over, read once a week to the elementary school kids. And my daughter was a second grader last year, so I tried to get over there a couple times, and my guys would go read to my daughter's class, and they love it, right? So being in a town, being in a community like Ada, we're going to have a spotlight, because campus is almost as big as the town, and so everything along those lines. I feel like I'm on an episode of Cheers sometimes. I can walk in the bar and somebody's going to say, "Hey, coach," and I'll say hello and they'll know. And that's even if I'm not wearing an Ohio Northern shirt or hat or something along those lines. And, I, we want to be as involved as we can with the community. I'm sure as I get more firm in my foundation here, my family's here a little bit longer, we'll be asked to do some things. I have been asked to talk with the Chamber of Commerce in town. Haven't quite found a date to fit that with everything yet. But again, for us, it's finding places where we can be helpful, be a part of the town. We try to open up like Saturday, like I mentioned, our scrimmage. We want, if people are coming over for the festival, come check us out in the morning. I was just talking to one of our guys in town that owns one of the carry out stores in town. He's like, "Man, I heard you guys got this amount of kids on your football team. We haven't seen that in a long time, or we haven't ever seen that amount." And they're watching. So the people are watching in town, and that's really exciting for us. And we like, again, it's a really awesome community to be a part of. That before I knew what Ada was, right? I knew where it was. I knew it was small and those things, but until I got here, it's just smaller Norwalk, which people have their opinions about that. But growing up in a small town, it certainly made that transition a little bit easier. I got to drive 15 minutes to get to the other side of town. For me, that's driving to Sandusky to go to Lowe's,
That's it.
something like that. And we just opened up a great brewery in town. So if you guys need something to do on a Saturday,
There you
we
go,
got
baby.
we got an awesome brewery that, it's going to hopefully drive people from, 30, 40 minutes, an hour away, that they're going to say, "Hey, let's go check it out." And it's an awesome place, and not only that, but we got a couple other great places to eat. So good things are happening in Ada. There's positive momentum, and we want to help that out as much as we can.
Very good.
As far as your recruiting, now last year you said you kind of went back through everybody and et cetera.
Hmm.
It sounds like that wasn't as big a deal this year. So how'd your recruiting change? And you'd always did it as an assistant coach, but now that you're the head man, do you have to close the deal sometimes with players? I mean, what's it like sitting in the chair that has the ultimate say so to, to try to give the final sales pitch to
Yeah.
come to Northern?
Yes. So there is a lot different, right? So the recruiting changed in the fact that we could actually start recruiting our prospective student athletes at the right time, right? When I got here in December, it was already, I mean, that's late in the process by now,
Mhm.
right? I think in the spring, so the spring of 25, so this past spring, we had about 140, 150 junior day visits during our spring practices, right? So anybody that's a junior, we're always going to welcome them, come check out campus. It's their first contact point with us on campus. And then throughout the summer, you're seeing guys at camps. We don't have any camps here on campus, but we try to get out to camps as much as possible around Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, Kentucky, wherever we can get to, and really
Right.
just kind of see those kids in their spaces. And then along those lines, you get them on campus in the fall for game day visits. And for us, we really just kind of trigger those official, unofficial visits for us, starting in December with everything. So once those guys are getting around in December, it does change from being the head coach and an assistant coach. I've I've been in a lot of interviews for football jobs, and one of the interviews I was on, one of the best things the head coach told me is like, it's your job to bring him to campus as the assistant. It's my job to close him, right? And so that's a big part of it. I value still having a recruiting area as the head coach, so I kind of recruit the local counties, the local area, probably within about 30 minutes, because I still want that opportunity to let my assistants know, like, hey, I'm working as hard as you to get these visits. Now, maybe a little easier because they're closer for me to get the visits, but that's the benefit of the big whistle. So for us and everything that we do, though, once we get guys on campus, you talk to kids. Definitely more parent involvement as the head coach. That's the one thing I kind of saw was, you try to talk to the parents, because the biggest responsibility I have, and I got young kids, and I get chills talking about it, is even though they're adults, right? I choose to work with 18 to 21-year-olds. Even though they're adults, when they're 18, we just had our kids report last Tuesday. Those parents are dropping their kids off and putting their kids, right? Their babies, they're their babies still, even though they're 18. They're putting them in my hands, and that's nothing I take lightly. And
Right.
again, I think back again, my freshman year at Otterbein was 20 years ago this fall. Um, I can I can remember Barb and Steve leaving me on a campus where I knew nobody, an hour and a half away from home, and thinking, well, what do I do now? Right. And
Yeah.
camp's changed a lot. Camp has changed a lot since then. So it's not the same. It's a lot different from regulations and rules and practices. But I remember that day like it was yesterday. And unless something happens where I lose my memory or lose that or something, like I don't think I'll ever forget it. And again, it takes mom and dad to be able to trust you and drop you off and do those things. So you got to have those parent relationships, right?
That's right.
It's you make contacts with every kid, you talk to every kid, you make every kid understand, like, hey, we want you to be a part of this. If this is where you want to be. So as a recruiting coach, you might only talk to guys from your area. As a coordinator, you might only talk to an offense defensive guy. Head coach, you got to talk to everybody. You got to make sure everybody feels welcome, everybody feels included. There might be a time where you're talking to a kid one-on-one and you didn't see the other kid say goodbye, so you got to call them and say, hey, I didn't catch you on the way out the door. So a lot of those things, and that's been the biggest change. And I get them. I talk to all of our recruits for probably about 20, 25 minutes to start the day, let them know what's expected on their visit, what's expected within our program, what our standards are from a football standpoint, from an academic standpoint. And again, that was something that, as a first time head coach, the first time I did it, like I called a mentor of mine, and I was like, well, that couldn't have gone any worse, right? But the more you do it, the more you get familiar with it, and it's Groundhog Day. That's what we call it. It's Groundhog Day because I know I joked with Nardo when he called me yesterday. He's like, tomorrow, Monday. I go, I don't know. I think it's Tuesday, but whatever day it is, it's very similar in the recruiting process because every day is the same. We work just as hard Monday through Saturday from about December through February as we do from August. It's just a little bit different scene, but our job on campus is to recruit quality student athletes and go get them.
Sure. Absolutely.
The 5 days is not a lot of practice, but with what you
Uh-huh.
did in the spring, what you expected of them in the summer, the 5 day report, positive as compared to last year.
Well, Uh, I'm going to answer the question differently since you added as compared to last year. So
Yeah,
absolutely
yeah,
different from
yeah.
last
Because
year.
you were way behind the 8 ball there,
Yeah.
way be, you know.
Yeah. So last year, obviously, we had our first spring practices. We only had 15 practices to kind of evaluate, or I'm sorry, 16 practices to evaluate who our guys were. And then in the fall, it's like, okay, we think these are going to be the guys that help us, right? This fall, now, like we're sitting here 5 days in, we're kind of seeing those dividends return, so to speak, of having, first spring practice last fall, last spring, and now this fall. So our upperclassmen that are juniors and seniors have now gone through 4 installs of how we run our things, offense, defense, special teams wise. And one of the most important things to me, is consistency. And I hired the first offensive coordinator in February. He had an opportunity that he wanted to take, so he left in July of last year. So our offensive coordinator that's still here, luckily, got here on August 10th, and our guys reported August 11th. And so we were really behind with everything along those lines. And so you got to catch up, right? But the
Sure.
staff consistency has been huge. All of our full-time staff members are back from last year, which I can't tell you
Wow,
how easy that makes it, because
wow,
it's
Sure.
yeah,
the kids know the expectation and the culture. The kids know what we're looking for. And I relate it, and sometimes they joke with me about it, but the word that we have in our program, like our hashtag, so to speak, or our mantra, is just the word trust. And for us, that means we have trust with our coaches, coach to coach, player to coach to player, our trainers. Everybody's got to have faith and trust in everybody else that we're going to be able to get the job done. And when I walk out to practice and somebody's, it's like, hey, coach, trust, right? Like jokingly, but that means it's seeping through, or at least that's how we perceive it, that it's seeping through to those guys, that the
Sure.
message is getting across. And if we're consistent with our coaching, if we're consistent with our discipline, if we're consistent with our message, then ultimately we feel like we're on the right track. So, all those things included. Last year we had a lot of guys. Example, if we have a uppers practice or a helmeted practice, we want to stay off the ground. You go to an NFL mini camp or training camp, those guys are the pros. They're the best, right? Last year we had some guys falling or tackling or not knowing what the expectation. I just told the team tonight, we didn't have a ton of guys on the ground today. We were in uppers practice. They know to thud up, let the running back run, and then we're through, right? And so those things have been really the world changing things for me. This camp is everybody knows the expectation of how we do things. Now you add in 80 freshmen to the mix, things change, but those guys got to get caught up quickly, because now they're a part of our standard. And we've seen guys be a little bit more verbal in their expectations of their teammates, so leadership,
Sure.
right, that's coming
hmm
through.
hmm
And so again, a lot of those things that, when it's those first 90 days, when I'm sitting in this chair and sleeping in my office, those first 90 days when I got the job, thinking, how are we going to do this, right? Those thoughts and those everything that's happening, as I recall back to those days, putting that effort in has really been worth it, as we enter year 2 with everything, because it's we hope we have a lot of really great expectations for this year. We think we can play some pretty complimentary football and be pretty good on both sides, but now it's on us as coaches to coach these guys up and our players to execute.
Yeah. Hey, Jim, you got one more question for Andy here?
Well, I was just wondering, would any of the players that would like to stay with your program approach you and say, Coach, I have a chance to go here. They're going to give me X amount. Would Ohio Northern be able to match that so I can stay right where I was at?
Yeah, so that's a really great question, and something that's kind of ongoing for us. That's
Mhm.
I don't think that's quite trickled down to Division III football yet. I think there are some schools out there that are you able to utilize that NIL, so to speak, and the people being put together that can give them money outside of that.
Sure.
And so we haven't seen it too much. It's something that we discuss as a staff to kind of figure out. But again, those coalitions, so to speak, or those groups that give those guys money, that's not school oriented. So if
Right.
that's something guys want, I can't necessarily go out and say, I can't go out and find an alum and say, hey, I need $5,000 for you to give to this kid. The kid's got to get connected. Now I can make that connection, but I can't make that offer. And so again, for us at our level, we haven't seen that trickle down as much. I'm sure I know probably some Division II schools are able to utilize that method and do some of those things. For our level though, luckily, and there's a lot of funny things. I always tell my staff, like the other day we were hanging some posters in the locker room. We got done and we joke. I said, "Do you think Ryan Day's hanging posters today?" And they laugh. Uh,
Oh,
yeah,
don't worry.
yeah, or like the equipment shed we got this summer. I had to put the equipment shed together, right? We had to organize the helmets, do all that. So while Ryan Day maybe not being put the equipment shed together, but Coach Day's got to deal with those conversations of how we're going to keep the guys happy and get them an extra $100,000 or whatever it may be. So it's just a difference of it. For me, obviously, that's the value of being at a place like Northern is, yeah, we're going to have to do some things maybe we don't want to do, but I've been a graduate assistant all the way up to head coach now. There's no job beneath me. I'm ready to help however I can. There's certainly some things when I look at a couple of our assistants and I say, hey, this is on you today. I'm not taking this one. But for the most part, we all play nice, and we don't have to deal with that aspect yet. I don't know. I could see at some point that being a part of what we're doing, but that's just the nature of it, unfortunately. And until it really gets to us, I don't think we're going to have a lot of firm answers on the best way to attack it. But there is that opportunity. Like if we were able to do that, then if we had an alum and a group of people that wanted to put together a separate club that we're saying, hey, coach, we need guys that we want to help fund, some NIL deals to or something along those lines or give money, like they got to handle it, not me.
Well, I do know Coach Day took all the national championship stuff down.
Yeah. Yeah.
This year's a whole new year. And I know he does have that countdown clock for November.
Oh yeah. Which
those are the two things I do know for a fact is going on.
Yeah. That's always the funny one for me too, is my athletic director just asked me the other day, he's like, hey, who's your college team? And I was like, the Polar Bears. He's like, no. Who's your college team? I go, the Polar Bears. He goes, really? I said, yeah. I had a chance to meet Coach Day very quickly once. I love what he does down there in Columbus, but he's got a job to do. I got a job to do. I'll root for Ohio State. Like, I want him to beat teams, and I was awesome to see him break through finally last year. And as a head coach, I greatly appreciate what he's gone through to get there.
Oh, yeah.
And that I just can't understand the nonsense that he's got to deal with on a day-to-day basis. But he's a great coach. All those guys, they do the best job that they can. It's just the millions they're making make that job a little bit more high pressure with everything. But it's I just hope the Polar Bears win on Saturday. Outside of that, I really don't care.
Hey, Andy, you've spoken an awful lot so far. Let's give your voice a rest here. Let's take a break, and let's talk about the book here for a couple of minutes.
All right. So we're going to go and talk about our famous Officials' Tales novel that we took all of, what was it, about 8 or 9 months, and how many revisions, Don? I don't know. I lost track that we had to do. And my daughter put together all the colorful cover and back for us. And it's available on Amazon. You can get it paperback, hardback, or ebook if you're, computer literate like Jimmy. You know how he is. He's our computer tech. Or if you can't wait, you can go to the Common Good and get it today. We sell them there every day. And before I forget, go back to this. Officials' Tales is now on sale on Amazon for $13 for the paperback. Common Good, they have a special going on. I'll let Don talk to you about that. And we plan on being up there when Don gets into town. And
next week.
There you go. And doing a little video with the girls and Jimmy, too. He might even wear his high heels. Who knows? So,
yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, hey, the Common Good, 11 West Main Street, Norwalk. They're open 5 days a week, too. Tuesday through Fridays, 11 to 6, Saturday, 10 to 6. And if you want to know a little more about them, you go to their website, www.commongoodoh.com. Not OHIO.com. A lot of good stuff on there. See about some of their vendors that they have their stuff in the store.
Now, I did have one other question for you, Andy, and then like a little statement here. But as all coaches, we all have our strengths and weaknesses. I think, what's your biggest goal this year to improve from last year? Like, what's that hole or holes you're looking to plug this year that were sort of leaking last year?
Just in generalities,
offense, defense. I don't want to give anybody any clues on what you're working on.
No. You guys mentioned, right? Like, I think if teams played us last year offensively, teams knew we wanted to run the football, and we were really effective at that. We had a 1,000-yard rusher last year, and then we had another guy that rushed for 890 yards. So we were pretty close to having two guys eclipse 1,000.
Sure.
And so because of that, uh, everything offensive line wise just tells me not to say what I'm about to say, but we got to be better at passing the football. And to our coaches' credit, development's a big thing, right?
Hmm.
We have a really great group of wide receivers made up of a lot of guys that were here last year, but we've
Sure.
also found some difference makers that we feel like are going to help us these first 5 days of camp. And it starts with quarterback play. We got a lot of guys getting a lot of reps right now with everything. We have a guy that started a game for us last year back, and then we have another guy who started probably 6 or 7 games for us, had some injuries. So those two guys are kind of dueling it out right now, figuring it out to see who's going to be able to at least take that first snap. But as we always know, injuries, stuff's going to happen, so everybody's got to be ready to go when that time is called. But we got to be able to throw the football. It was great. You asked me, we scored 33 points a game. We're going to be
Yep.
pretty fired up and pretty excited about that. But we can't line up on a down basis, and people think that we're going to run the football. Now, it is nice being able to run the football. And when people expect you to run the football, that means we're doing something right in that game. And I don't know how well you guys looked at our coaches' bios. Our offensive coordinator has won 2 Super Bowls, Division I national championship, and he's got a couple Doak Walker Award winners, I think. Coach guys like LaDainian Tomlinson, among others, and so he's really great at that. And so that's, I think, our mantra. You got a head coach who played O-line, coaches the O-line. We want to run the football, but we also got a lot of other great coaches that can get those other guys the ball. And so we got to be able to throw the ball this year. We're working through that. We think we've done some good things in the playbook to help us out. And then on the opposite side of that, we also got to stop the pass. So
Yeah.
imagine that. I'm not sitting here saying we got to run the ball and stop the run, which is the two most important proponents usually.
Mhm.
So we do those things fairly well. At least we think we do them well. But we also want to make sure that we are being complementary on offense and defense and being able to stop the pass. And so that works again year 2 with our defensive coordinator working with the back end on defense, making sure we're a little different than most teams on defense, and that the fact that we have 3 high safeties instead of 3 linebackers or 4 linebackers in the box. It's kind of
Mhm.
in vogue a little bit, but it's different that if you're not quite sure the ins and outs of it, it might trip you up occasionally. So we value that being different in that way. And then again, offensively, finding a way that we can be efficient throwing the football. And our receivers coach gives us a hard time because the last game of the year last year, we finally had a 100-yard receiver in a game for the first time in week 10. And so we feel like we're on the right track. I think,
Good.
going back to your question too, right? Like, what's different? We know our personnel better. We know guys' strengths. We know guys' weaknesses. We know who to put in these spots to be able to say, okay, hey, you can help us here, or you can help us here. And that's just the personnel things that as you work through this thing, you're going to put the best 11 on the field, offense, defense, special teams, and know that we're prepared for any situation.
Well, now the statement. Well, I got 2 statements, but the one I'm going to save to the end. We are going to have 2 college football referees on the
Okay.
next week or so. Is there anything in the new rules that
Um,
you're interested in, or maybe you want us to ask them? We'd be willing to
I,
do that for you.
I assume they're high level officials, correct?
Well, MAC and Big
Yeah.
Ten and ACC, yes.
Okay, yeah. So as far as new for us this year, the OAC adopted video replay. So that's something that we have to kind of familiarize ourselves with as head coaches. We'll only get one a game if we want to challenge. There's certain things that are challengeable, not challengeable at our level. And really at our level, what it comes down to is we don't have the 900 camera angles everybody else has. So
Yeah,
what
right.
we've been conveyed to do is to make dang sure, number one, it's a challengeable call. Because if I take a timeout and it's not challengeable, I'll lose the timeout. And then if
Right.
I do take the timeout and I want a spot on 4th and 1, we're not going to have the camera on the pylon, for example, to tell us if it was good or not. So
That's
so
right.
that's the biggest changes for us, and not every conference has adopted that, but the OAC has adopted that, partially because that's a playoff rule too. So you get that rule in the playoffs. So should our coaches have an opportunity to be in the playoffs. One team will automatically go, but if our coaches are in the playoffs, that you have that opportunity to kind of know the ins and outs of that and everything along those lines. So that's been the biggest rule change for us. I'm trying to think. Here's a good one for you. I'm curious to know every week you guys know the name Steve Shaw.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
he's the coordinator for all officials like across the country. We
Yep.
were on RefQuest. RefQuest is
Mhm.
what we use for our scheduling. And so every couple of weeks I get a new email from Steve Shaw that goes to all the coaches, I think, in all divisions about changes NCAA. The interesting one I think this year will be for us, maybe. I don't know how it's going to be enforced at our level compared to others, is the defense being able to not use the offensive indications to stem and move and do some of those things. So I think that's an interesting one that's been a point of emphasis, right? Like if a team has a quarterback clap as their cadence, the defense can no longer clap to stem or move guys or do some of those things. So I think that'll be an interesting one as things progress. And I don't know how they'll handle it in those loud stadiums, but in our stadiums, those things will change. And the defensive guy now can be the indicator as the offensive guy jumping off sides, right? So if the defender is moving in a way that would intend that that's his get off, so to speak, then that can
Sure.
influence the O lineman. Then so there's some of those things that I have not dived in yet. I got to share them with the team yet. But those are the two main ones. Like I said, at our conference level, at least in the OAC, is replay review. And then the other one is just, because sometimes when Steve sends out those videos, again, they don't go just to me, they go to everybody. You watch some of those clips and then you realize how hard of a job you guys have to try to interpret the rule.
Yeah, you
Doesn't make
got
me
it.
doesn't make me feel any different sometimes when I'm not happy about a call.
I get it.
But that's
I
that's
get it.
that's the biggest thing. And there's some confusing things that if an official's not going to catch him right, but I know the rule, he's not going to be very happy when I look at him and say, no, this is what it says, and then I'll be wrong anyway because I know how you guys operate. Trust me, I've learned
Wow.
that.
You know,
But that's the
we're like
biggest
that.
thing is just working through it. And that's the fun part of my job now is I told people that maybe the most fun part about my job is the officials will actually talk to me now.
Sure.
There's a couple
Yes,
that
they
I was
will
very
now.
very there was a couple I was very very frustrated because they didn't give me the time of day, and I wasn't very happy about that because I feel as though that's their job is to talk and
Oh yeah.
communicate. They
Absolutely.
they can they can disagree and tell me I'm wrong, but their job is still to communicate with me if I have questions of why this is happening or not happening.
You're the
So,
that guy in your wing is the conduit between the referee
yep,
and the
That was
coaching
me.
staff, and that's going
That was
the
me.
two of you talking.
Yeah,
yep,
I
So
do
and
that all the time.
yep,
That was
and
my
again,
job.
I know the line judge sometimes gets annoyed because that's usually right where I'm at.
mhm.
I wouldn't want to be a line judge because those guys are getting an earful the whole game, and even if
Oh
they
yeah.
switch sides. But and that's working with officials for me. It's about being respectful, right? Like I appreciate we already know who's assigned to our games for the most part this year. A couple familiar faces, a couple new faces. It's always obviously great. You get the card that has everybody's name, so you can be
Sure.
respectful when talking to
Mhm.
them and taking care of that. And that's just the biggest thing is I'm going to be respectful for them. I expect that same respect back. I'm not always going to be right. They're not always going to be right. But that's something as I go into year two, I want to be a little better as the referee banter and knowing that I have to defend my team. And if I don't do that, then I'm doing myself a disservice because the coach on the other side might be doing that for his. And
Oh
it's
yeah.
it's just that interesting, dynamic to wearing the big headset.
Yeah, you just got to remember that we're all human. We all screw stuff up.
Oh yeah.
So,
Yep. Yep.
in 35 years of sports officiating, I never called a perfect game. And
No,
according to Jimmy, I was unapproachable. So there you
no.
go. You know how that
That wasn't me.
goes.
That was the coach that told you that. But
All
I
right,
already
guys.
knew
Hey,
that.
yeah. Well, we always knew that.
Hey, Andy,
Guys,
what
let's get
overall
football
in
for
the Ohio Athletic Conference? Now, the OAC is a great Division III
Yep.
athletic conference. Not just football; their basketball is excellent. They've had a really good run of super good teams for the last 40 years in both of those sports. Um, what's it look like? What's the league look like this year for you?
Well, I think the top is really competitive across the board. There's a few teams that are still building with some new coaches. I think we have three new coaches in the conference. I laugh because I think I'm the fifth most veteran coach already going into year two out of nine teams. So there's some new faces, which is exciting. The coaches that are the veteran coaches have also been at their schools for 5+ years though, so there's some longevity with that. And the bottom line is week in, week out, we got to be ready to play. It doesn't matter if you're playing a team who maybe doesn't have a great record or you're playing a team that is undefeated or something along those lines. So for us, it's just week in, week out. You better be ready or else you're going to get punched in the face. And I think we found that out a couple of times last year is, we played some teams where our guys, I think, were like, hey, we're good. Well, if you're saying we're good, we're not going to be good. And we, got punched in the face those days. And those are the hard ones to get over. We also played some games last year that were close with some really great teams that, we just didn't quite finish. And so for us, it's just finding a way to get over that hump. We want to go in every week, coach speak, 1-0, find a way to win and move on. Because in our conference, if you start looking ahead, that team that you're overlooking is going to embarrass you, and it's not much fun. And that's something that's different too. I can tell you what that head coach loss feels like as opposed to a win, and even as an assistant, right? Because you're wearing that a little bit differently because all the eyes are on you as the head coach.
Right.
And that first one hits a little bit different. Never gets easy losing. We don't want to lose. You understand now. Okay, hey, where were we bad this week? How do we get better? How do we better prepare so next week it doesn't happen again? And it's a meat grinder for us week in, week out. There's no off week. There's no easy week. We get a bye week, I think week 3. So we come out, play 2 games. We play at Franklin over in Indianapolis or south of Indianapolis. And then our first home game is senior day against Heidelberg at 4 o'clock, which is our biggest rivalry game of the year. So senior day, rivalry game, 4 o'clock, Hall of Fame. If you name it, our officials are going to be like, we're doing it that day. So we'll have 5 extra minutes that I'm sure they'll be thrilled about having at halftime or pregame, introducing our seniors, doing those things. But then we get our bye week. And then after that, we're just rolling through 8 straight. So there's no time to take a breath. It's an all out sprint to each week, finding a way to gain an edge if we can. And that's our job as coaches, is finding a way to put our guys in the best spot each week, so that we don't get that punch in the face moment. And as a head coach, if your team goes out and plays really well and you come up short, it's a lot easier than if they're not prepared. So we got to make sure our guys are prepared in every aspect.
Okay, let's prepare the fans. What day is that big rivalry game against the Berg?
That would be Saturday, September 13th. So that'll be a 4 o'clock kickoff, I believe, 4:30 on Saturday, September 13th. And again, that's our home opener. One of the changes we made last year that seemed to be really positive with our parents and players and campus community, is we honor our seniors that first home game. A lot of people wait until the end of the year. For us, weather is always a factor, right? Like if it's the end of the year and it's November, it could be snow in Ada. But also the other important part for us in that was, if we have a senior day, we want everybody to be involved. So as you go through, injuries are bound to, creep up on guys. And if you have a senior that can't dress out, can't play, if he's a starter or something along those lines, we want to get everybody as involved as possible within senior day. And that doesn't mean everybody's going to play. We got to play well and take care of business. But we want to honor those guys. Last year was a senior day where I didn't know those guys too well, just because I hadn't even been with them a full year. I was with them through December until September on their senior day. But I don't appreciate those guys any less. If you see that picture kind of hanging up right there, that was all of our seniors last year after our win against Otterbein down there week 10. And I look up at that and I go, man, I wish I had a handful of those guys back this year, because I know what they meant to our team now. But our seniors, we try to honor them and do that, and then that provides us later in the year too, should we be in a situation where we really got to focus on the game. This is what I tell the team. Then we put the distractions aside so we can put on the helmets and go out and play really well, and not have some of those other distractions towards the end of the year, and sometimes some of those bigger games.
Yeah, part of the culture.
Yeah.
All right, Jim, you got one more question for Andy, and then I got a quick statement, and we'll let him go and save his voice for tomorrow.
With the practices and everything, has school started yet? So the players need to get to class and do their thing, so to
Yeah,
speak?
so for us, we're fortunate. We start school a week from today. Today's Monday. Yes, so go back. Today's Monday. We start school a week from today, so we got the rest of the week to kind of iron out the rest of camp, so to speak. We had some
Mhm.
schools in our conference that they started school today, so we get a little bit of a competitive advantage there, in my opinion. These back back in my day, right? I mentioned,
Mm.
everything was a little bit different when I was in school. Otterbein, we were on quarters. And so we reported in second week of August, and we didn't start school until the second week of September. So we had a month of an NFL month basically where it was 3 a days every day, no days off. Now everybody's got to have a day off once a week. We can only practice once a day. So it's changed a lot, like I mentioned. So being able to have an extra week where some of our competitors are in class, we still get our guys for meetings. They don't have to worry about it. All the traditional students get here on Wednesday. So on Wednesday's move-in day, so we have to move some things around and accommodate for some of the freshman orientation stuff. So that gets to be hard because I love consistency. I love being able to say, hey, we practice at 1:30 every day for the next so many days. We've done that now for about 4 days in a row, but come Wednesday, that changes. I think we practice in the morning on Wednesday to accommodate those other students' move-ins, freshman orientation stuff. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week will be a little bit different. Friday, that's their off day this week, so they can get out of town or not out of town, but they can focus on the freshman orientation stuff. And then we'll have our inter squad scrimmage on Saturday. So it kind of gives the guys a day to get their legs back with everything too before we go out there on Saturday morning and hopefully play ourselves well.
Well,
Okay, so we want to encourage people on the 13th of September, get down to Ada, 4 o'clock game. I'll tell you what, that's a beautiful stadium you have. The seating, the vision lines from the stands onto the field are just spectacular. The band gives it a lot of oompa too. It's just
Yes, they do.
a great small college atmosphere. Middle of September, the weather's going to be perfect right there for sitting in the stands in a polo and watching football. And
He
so
just
I
jinxed
hope
you.
that the local folks get down and see Andy do his thing.
No,
And I got
that
another
would-
question for you.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Has anybody put a connection between Andy Freeze and Gene Freeze? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do not know, Gene, but I've fielded that question 20 plus times since I've been here. So
Okay.
I've heard the name. I haven't had the opportunity to kind of dive down that wormhole, so to speak. And it's funny because my family, I mean, if people know me, my family's relatively small for being, my parents both having three siblings. And it's funny because I have double cousins, and at the time, my dad's sister and my mom's brother were married at one point, and so I have cousins on both sides because they're my dad's true nephew and my mom's true nephews.
wow.
And so it gets really funky, but my dad's side of the family's from Monroeville, so if it's a Monroeville Freeze, there's a chance. Otherwise, it's a Lawrence on mom's side, obviously. So we don't have a big family, and so Gene, I don't know. I don't know anything, but I've heard that name thrown around here plenty of times. But usually, unless I say, yeah, if you're a Monroeville Freeze, there's a shot. Other than that, not a chance.
There
Well,
you go.
Gene coached in Norwalk, a
Yep.
basketball team. Gosh, this is back. I think. Oh gosh, I don't want to get him in the wrong thing. It might have been after Mike Gross. I don't. And he was very successful as a high school coach at Ada.
Okay.
And
Yep.
so he came to Norwalk to coach. And after that 1 year in Norwalk, the people in Ada wanted him back as superintendent of schools. So
Okay.
although he did a nice job in Norwalk, great guy, he obviously went back to the place he had a lot of success in. He probably had a lot of love in his heart for Ada and went back there as superintendent of schools. And
Yeah.
I just wondered if it ever
Yeah.
shown up or
Yeah.
if he's even still walking this earth.
Yeah. And here's another fun one with my last name as well too. So my school email address is a-freeze.1. And I'm thinking, and the dot number is because somebody else had that. Right now, it's not like b-smith.23. And so the only person I can come up with is Aaron Freeze, who was a St. Paul kid that came to Ohio
Mhm.
Northern. And so I don't know. Aaron's a little older than I am. I assume maybe that if they were on the forefront of emails or anything along those lines. We actually we had St. Paul out here on a visit.
Yeah.
The
Mhm.
coaches brought him out for the football factory tour and everything. And Frank Van Dresser, who's also a Ohio Northern alum, we were talking about that, and I said, I think it's Aaron Freeze that beat me to the A dot freeze, or A hyphen freeze. So now I have a A hyphen freeze dot one. I wish I didn't have the dot one, but I can't control that.
That's how it goes. Well, I'm going to let you wrap up here, Andy, but
Okay.
I did do a little research. Like I said, I see that the coaches in the AOC pick your team to finish fifth.
Okay.
Now, I know what I would do with that. I would put that up on a bulletin board and go, maybe right above that, believe it or not, or something, along
Yep.
that, and have the kids pound it on the way to the field, Like,
Yep.
yeah, I'll finish fifth, all right. But, I know what we did with that kind of stuff. So I'm going to let you tell us, what your thoughts are on that and wrap it up for us.
I'm a head football coach, so I know how to answer this question. Doesn't matter. The
There
game's
you
played
go.
on the game's played on the field. We got to go out and play well each week. At the preseason polls, it is what it is. Our coaches vote on it. Everybody, we have to do it. So it's going to come out, but that doesn't matter. All that matters is what's going to be played on Saturdays. If we go out and play at our best, the score will take care of itself, so to speak. And
That's right.
that's our mentality. The classic, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. That's all
That's
you
There
it.
you
can do.
go.
So we take it 1 week at a time around here. We're not going to look forward to anything. We got a game on September 6th, which is now about 20 days away, 19 days away, along those lines. We're going to go play a really talented Franklin football team who I've got a lot of experience with, both as a player, one game, and then as a coach over in the or the HCAC. So I think each of the last, call it 5 years, we've played Franklin, or I should say my teams that I've coached have played Franklin as an offensive coordinator out at Rose-Hulman. And then last year, my first game, we had Franklin here in town. And so we're really familiar. Their head coach is a legend that came back. He retired about 5 years ago. They rehired him in January, and all he did is, I think he's probably the winningest coach in Franklin history, has won playoff games, been to the Elite Eight as in the playoffs. And he's a really great coach. So I know we got to be really prepared to go out there, play in a rowdy environment. One of the best things about Franklin is their fans do an awesome job tailgating. We have to walk through the tailgate to get to the field, and that's that's a fun experience. And if
Just
you
got to
can't
make
get
sure
it,
you don't lose anybody on the way.
yeah,
That's right.
that's assistant coaches' problems. Assistant coaches' problems. And
Grab
so
a
for
hot
me,
dog.
yeah, or grab a hot dog on the way by. But yeah, that's the exciting part when you play in atmospheres like that where it's a little bit hostile. That's what we want to be. And my history with Franklin, I always like telling people, is my senior year we made the playoffs for the first time in school history, and we lost to Franklin in the first round of the playoffs. Home game, first round we lost. So I've never forgotten that. That is, something I'll never forget. I valued that experience, but I'm never going to forget that. And it's been a fun experience getting an opportunity to play them because we've gotten to know them really well. Actually, I went the defensive coordinator at Rose-Hulman. His wedding was this past winter, and the Franklin head football coach was there because that's where he played. So I got to meet Coach Leonard a little bit more, talk to him, get to know him, and he's a super great guy. I know they're going to be fired up. It's going to be a great atmosphere, and our goal is just to go over there, take care of business, get on the bus, and get home safely.
Attaboy. Well, we wish you the best of luck this year. And thanks again for coming out and hanging out with us and giving us some great insight. And we appreciate everything you've done for our show. And thanks again, guys. You got anything?
Hey, we
Hey,
forgot something. How's the family?
Oh,
good
yeah.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah, have you checked in with them this last 5
sorry
days?
about that.
That I think they're good. I think my wife's a speech therapist in Ada at the schools, so I think her first kind of teacher back day is tomorrow. And if you have any loved ones who are teachers, you know how that generally goes. Even though she loved her job,
All right. Yeah.
the kids start school next Monday, maybe, I think. But they're all doing great. Luke turned 6 this summer. Maddie will be a third grader. She's 8.
All right.
I mean, they came out to practice yesterday, and everything you can ask for. They're running on the field after practice, asking for my whistle, driving me crazy, but I wouldn't change it for the world because that's
Absolutely not.
I
You got
can't.
one chance at it.
Yeah,
No.
Enjoy it.
I mean, I love being a coach, but being a dad's the best part of life, man. That's
You got it.
Absolutely, I agree.
that's the best thing I get to do is be dad.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again, Andy.
But tell your players to listen to this podcast, see what they think of you as
all right.
being a TV star now.
Yeah,
Who knows what's going to happen?
yeah, who knows? It's funny too because you guys last fall when we were able to wrap it up, this was kind of my first opportunity to hop on one of these. You guys were the tester because since then I've been on about 2 or 3, and that great being back with you guys. And obviously, if I can do anything to help, let me know. I'm still crazy that you guys asked me to do this. I know Don had to chase me down a decent amount, and I apologize about that.
Yeah.
I appreciate
That
you being
time of year.
flexible, but
It happens.
we made it work, and that's all that matters. So I appreciate it. If I can do anything to help out, guys, just please let me know.
All right.
Thank you
a lot,
very
Andy.
much.
I also heard that Uncle Tom was in town a couple
Yeah.
weeks back, and
Yeah,
was wanting to get him out to our regular poker game out to the Knights of Columbus, but he was only in town for a certain amount of time, and they kind of hog swaddle him into a euchre game. So
Yeah, no, he was in town 2 weekends ago, the 9th, or like the 6th through the 9th, and dinner at the Angry Bowl, the whole deal. Being back in town, seeing a lot of guys. He was able to come out here on Sunday with his son Chris, and I took him around campus on a golf cart tour, and those are some fun stories he's got officiating wise as well too. When you get it, you dive into those a little bit, and it's he's doing great down in Cincinnati. I miss him. Again, my dad's dad, Charlie, he passed away when my dad was young, so I never had a chance to meet Charlie. But Uncle Tom and Aunt Nancy, when she was around, still they were grandma and grandpa. They were great uncle, great aunt, but they were still grandma and grandpa. And they've always taken care of Dad and his siblings and me and Bryce and everybody else. So it's good to see. Uncle Tom's one of those guys. Every time I see him, it hits you right there. It hits you a little bit differently because you take care of your family, and your family will take care of you, and that's a really great thing. So Jim, I appreciate you mentioning him.
All right. Thanks again, Andy. Take care and good luck.
No sweat. Thanks, guys. See ya.
Enjoy the close.
All right, guys. Let's see. We just got maybe one little thing. I was thinking about doing some. Go ahead,
Take
Don.
a little business. We'll do a little business meeting right after the closing.
Yeah, that's we're gonna take one little second here, play a little bit for our buddy Max, and we gotta have a little something for Max, and let's see here, and away we go. Here we go, Max.
I already did that one.
Give it up, ball. Oh, I got it. Ooh. Get the thing. Hey, what do we do when we get the ball? Oh, you appleheads, all you got to do when you get the ball is go that way. Go that way. You understand? Yeah, I do, but I don't think he does. Do you get it? Certainly. Hey. Come on now. Let's go now, boy. 6, 3, 2, hip. Hey, come back!
Oh goodness. Sorry, Max. It couldn't be any longer, but we kind of went a little long tonight. So again, hey, thanks everybody for joining us. It was great to have Andy here, and I appreciate him. So good night, and we'll see you next week.
Take care, gentlemen, and our audience.
That's all, folks.